always, Honorable Gladys Wanga, is seated where she sits, and yourself. The only one who seems not to have discovered it properly is the leader of Minority Party from the same region. He enjoys it from where he's sitting. So we proceed to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
On this particular one, we have questions by private notice, 2 of them, and others by ordinary. And we'll start with the questions by private notice. Starting off is the Honorable Peter Masara, member for Suna West. Honorable Masara. Can you press intervention, please? Then we'll be able to pick you easily. Yes, you have it now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 42A5, I rise to ask question number 25 of 2020. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain circumstances that led to the violent confrontation between the police and residents of Godokwer village in Sunaway sub-county during religious pilgrimage by the Legion Maria Faithful on 14 September 2020, where several people were killed and many others injured? What is two, Mr. Speaker, what is the status of the investigation into the incidents? What and what measures are in place to ensure that the action is taken against police officers who misuse their firearms or use excessive force while controlling the crowd? Number 3, Mr. Speaker, what measures have been put in place to ensure that security is provided during religious gathering in the country, including during pilgrimages by the Legion Maria Faithfuls? And finally, Mr. Speaker, when will the affected families be compensated for the losses incurred, including loss of lives of loved ones? And could the ministry consider meeting the cost of medical bills for those in hospital? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. And I hope the chair is in the house. I see him. This being a question by private notice, it should be answered as quickly as is reasonably possible. So we go to the next member that is a member for Game, Honorable Elisha Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 025 of 2020. 026 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary of Foreign Affairs. 1. Roman 1. What steps have been taken by the ministry to facilitate the retrieval of the body of the late James Osala Nyadenge, a resident of East Game constituency, who was murdered while fishing in Lake Victoria on the Tanzanian territory of the waters on the 31st August 2020, and his body thrown into the lake? Roman 2, what diplomatic measures have been put in place to ensure peaceful coexistence between the communities living in all countries that share Lake Victoria waters, so as to guarantee their safety, and in particular safety of Kenyan fishermen who solely depend on fishing as a source of livelihood? Thank you.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. So we go to the ordinary questions. Starters off is the Honorable Walter Awino, member for Awendo. Because I'm not able to pick you from here. So proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 189 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary. Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Question number 1. What measures has the ministry put in place to avert the closure and subsequent collapse of the hotel and hospitality industry in the country, particularly the reported intended closure of the Intercontinental Hotel in Nairobi? Number 2, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that the permanent closure of the hotel does not impact negatively on Kenyans sitting as international hospitality investment center? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism. So let's have the member for Meru County, the Honorable Bishop Kawira Mwangaza. You had placed an intervention and you removed your card again. Now you proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that all jobless youths in Meru County benefit under the National Hygiene Initiative dubbed Kazi Mtaani, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic period? What criteria is used in selecting the youth to be employed under the Kazi Mtaani program in Meru County? What are the terms of employment under the program, specifically the amount of money paid to and the duration of engagement once a youth is employed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. So we go to the member for Loima and have the Honorable Jeremiah Lomurukai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask question 204 of 2020 be directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Question 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the inordinate delays in the completion of the Lodwa, Nadapal, Lorenkipi, Nawayapong Road? I think Lorenkipi should come first. Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the amount of money that has been paid so far for the said road, indicating all the budgetary allocations and disbursement scheduled since inception? Number 3, when is the project expected to be completed? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Work and Housing. Next is the member for Teso North. Honorable Kukaunya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, I was to ask question number 206 of 2020, but I would like to request that I drop it because last week, Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary for Education visited and I raised the same issue, and he agreed to provide the report, the result. And I thought it would be prudent to drop it for now.
Now, a question which I would ask you, the Honorable Member. First, it is good for members to note that once you have asked a question, it becomes the property of the House. Now, you may be satisfied yourself, but probably some members who would have asked almost the same question, because looking at it, the Honorable Oku Kaunya, this is not a specific question that touches on your constituency. It's a more generalized question that generally touches the entire Republic on it. Now, I do not know whether there is any harm you asking it anyway and having this, because I would believe that under this specific question you would be getting a written reply, which would be good for the House and its record. So we'll not be wasting time of anybody. So my request is that you proceed and ask the question, even if you are fairly satisfied, but let it be on record so that it does not become something that you have agreed outside the presence.
Mr. Speaker, sir, well guided, because I only thought that probably by asking it, and I'd already asked the executive to give some on when he visited the constituency. But I will proceed, Mr. Speaker, sir, with
Yes,
your
please
permission.
do it, because looking at it, I was actually convinced initially to allow you to withdraw, but looking at it, we have nothing. We have nothing to lose. Not the time. I think it is something that you can have it on record.
Agreed, Mr. Speaker, sir. I will go ahead and read question number 206 of 2020. And I ask the question to the chairperson, Teacher Service Commission. Could the commission provide a list of all teachers who would have attained mandatory retirement age this year, and those who are awarded job contracts after attaining the mandatory retirement age? 2, what was the rationale in awarding retired teachers job contracts despite there being so many unemployed registered teachers? Number 3, what measures has the Teacher Service Commission put in place to ensure that the regulations guiding the issuance of these contracts are not abused? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That will be due for a written reply by the Teachers Service Commission. So we go to the member for Vihiga County, that's the Honorable Beatrice Adagala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I arise to ask question 208, 2020, to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the construction of Kisumu-Kakamega Road, especially around Majengo town, has numerous design gaps, including huge open drainages, lack of footbridges, and pedestrian walkways, which leads to numerous road accidents and waterborne diseases in the area? 2, would the ministry consider compensating the victims of road accidents that results from the said poor road designs? 3, when will the rehabilitation works on Stendikisa Kima Humsalaba Road, which is in a deplorable state, be carried out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. This one will be replied to before the Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Then we go to the next question, which is by the member for Lurambi, the Honorable Titus Hamala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 215 of 2020. Question Roman 1. What is the status of preparedness in regard to the opening of schools and all other learning institutions in the country during the COVID-19 pandemic period? Question Roman 2. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that schools and all learning institutions conform to the said COVID-19 protocols? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, as I refer this particular question to the relevant departmental committee, which is Committee on Education and Research, to be replied to there, I want to encourage the chair of this particular committee to quickly dispense with this question, since actually under normal circumstances, this is one that should have come under, would have been a question by private notice, because it is fairly urgent, and you can, I mean, we take the notice of the fact that schools are likely to be opening school soon. So I would want to see if the chair education is in the house. The vice? Is the vice in the house? Well, but generally the leader of majority party, I think this is something that we could agree as a house, that it be answered faster than should be normal, because this is a matter that is live in the country at the moment, and it is fairly urgent. So if it can be done quickly, the better. So we go to the next question by the Honorable Samuel Atandi. That is the member for Alego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'd ask to ask question number 218 of 2020 in today's order paper. My question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works. What plans has the Ministry put in place to rehabilitate and operationalize Gombe Airstrip in Alego Usonga constituency so as to serve the over 1 million residents in the region, as well as facilitate tourism, air evacuations, and transportation of farm produce in the area? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport and Public Works. So then we go to the next order.
Order number 8, special motion, approval of the third basis for sharing of national revenue allocated to counties.
Now, Chairperson, Budget and Appropriation Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I beg to your indulgence if I can relax my mask.
Yes, proceed, please. But make sure that Honorable Jimmy Angwenyi is not seated very close to your front.
He should relocate.
He should relocate to the seat next to make sure that we have real.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks so much for your indulgence. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to provisions of Article 217(1) and 4 of the Constitution on allocation of the share of national revenue among the counties, this House concurs with the Senate and approves the third basis for the annual allocation of the share of national revenue to the county level of government for the financial years 2020-2021 to 2020-2024 to 2020-2025, which shall consist of the allocation ratio and the formula where 1, allocation ratio is equal to the shareable revenue allocated to the counties in the financial year 2019 to 2020. 2, the formula is equal to 18% population index plus 17% health index plus 10% agriculture index plus 5% urban index plus 14% poverty index plus 8% land index plus 8% road index plus 20% of the share index. Mr. Speaker, the land area cap is capped at 7%. And 2, the formula will use the 2019 population and the 2015-2016 KIHBS poverty statistics. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to dwell so much on the formula because I will confuse even more people here, but I think it has is well documented in the order paper, and members can have a look at it. Mr. Speaker, and further resolves that the third basis for allocating among the counties to share the share of national revenue that is annually allocated to the county level of government for the financial years 2020-2021 to 2024 to 2025 shall be applied as follows. A, equitable share for 2020-2021, that is the county allocation is equal to allocation ratio plus 0. That is the formula we are also talking about. B, equitable share for 2020 to 2021 stroke 2022 to 2024 to 2025 of Kenya shillings 370 billion and above, where the county allocation is equal to 0.5 into bracket allocation share plus the equitable share minus 0.5 of the allocation share times the formula. Provided that for the duration of the operation of the third formula, or the third basis for the allocating revenue among the counties, no money shall be received in any financial year, an amount of shareable revenue that is less than the amount of the shareable revenue received by the county in the financial year 2019-2020. Mr. Speaker, very briefly, and I move, I want to kindly, and of course, seek the indulgence of the House, because this is a document that we have worked on for only 2 days. As you are aware, the Senate or the other House had this document for 1.5 years. But I want to really thank my committee, most sincerely, that they worked overtime, burnt midnight oil, to come up with a document that has evaded the Senate for 1.5 years, and we were able to do it within a day. And just to take the members down the memory lane and where we came from, Article 217 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that every 5 years, the Senate shall, by resolution, determine the basis for allocating the share of national revenue that is annually allocated to the county level of government among the counties, in order to facilitate the workings of the Senate. Article 216(1) of the Constitution mandates the Commission on Revenue Allocation, CRA, to make recommendations concerning the basis for equitable sharing of revenue raised by the national government between the national and county governments and among county governments. And since the promulgation of the Constitution in 2010, there has been 2 formulas, or if you like it, basis. The first basis for sharing revenue among counties was approved by the 10th Parliament in November 2012, and was used to share revenue for the financial year 2013, 2014, 2014-2015, 2015/2016, 2016/2017. The second basis was approved by the 11th Parliament in June 2016 and was used to share revenue among counties in the financial year 2017-2018, 2018/2019, and 2019/2020. But, Mr. Speaker, it's also important to note that in that second generation formula, when it was presented to the then Budget and Appropriations Committee, it was never debated, so the 60 days lapsed, so it was perceived to have passed, so it never came for debate. But I'm happy that this committee has been able to deliberate on this third generation formula. The first basis for the revenue sharing approved by the 10th Parliament in November 2012 was based on 5 parameters with different weights, namely population at 45%, poverty gap at 20%, land area at 8%, the basic equal share at 25%, and fiscal responsibility at 2%. The second basis for the sharing revenue approved by the 11th Parliament in 2016 was based on 6 parameters as follows: basic equal share at 26%, population remained at 45%, land area remained at 8%, the poverty gap 18%, fiscal effort at 2%, and a new area of development factor at 1%. The second basis was meant to provide alternative or adequate funding for county governments to enable them to effectively undertake their assigned functions, correct economic disparities, and minimize the development gap, and incentivize counties to optimally optimize capacity to raise revenue. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to highlight the reason CRA gave that basis, Mr. Speaker. That is pursuant to Article 216(2), the Constitution of the Constitution, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, CRA, submitted its recommendation on the third basis of sharing revenue among counties to the Senate for consideration. The proposed criteria by CRA was tabled in the Senate on the 30th of April 2019 and was submitted or committed to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about 30th of April 2019. So the Senate or the other House decided to sleep on this document until 2 or 3 months ago. Mr. Speaker, the CRA proposal for the third basis of sharing revenue among counties was based on the following objectives: A, to enhance service delivery; B, to promote balanced development; C, to incentivize counties to optimize capacity to raise revenue; and D, to incentivize prudent use of public resources. In the CRA proposal, there was a shift towards service-oriented approach of revenue sharing, where new parameters such as health index, agriculture services, and other county services and other services were introduced, and thus increased the number of parameters to 10. In comparison, the first two bases of sharing revenue, the first and the second basis, were nearly the same, with minimal changes, entailing introduction of additional parameters, that is development index, and altering the weight in the second basis. The first and the second basis had basic equal share of 25% and 26% respectively, while the third basis had proposed 20%, which is a reduction. Poverty is also a common parameter among the three formulas, as 20% in the first basis, 18% in the second basis, and proposed 14% in the third basis of the revenue sharing. The share of land area parameter is constant at 8% across the first, second, and third basis of sharing revenue, while that of physical effort is also constant in the, at 2% across all the three bases of revenue sharing. I want members to note that the CRA had proposed that physical effort that encourages counties to prudently use their resources. But as you will note, what the Senate decided to pass is that they deleted that physical policy. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the Senate resolution had proposed that the basis will be as follows. 1, to hold harmless and ensure that no county receives less resources and there is no disruption in services in the counties. At the county level, all counties will receive the same resources as they received in the financial year 2019 to 2020. And 2, to ensure there is predictability in resource allocation to counties, commencing from the financial year 2020/2022 financial year to 2024 to 2025, the formula shall apply on a basis of 50% of 316.5 billion shillings, and the remaining amount shall be applied to the formula as given in the annex, which I have also provided. I don't want to go to the parameters of this formula, Mr. Speaker, but maybe to just highlight is that the parameter of this formula included are distributed as follows. 18% on population, 17% is on health, 10% is agriculture, 5% urban, 14% poverty, 8% land, which is capped at 7%, and 20% the basic share. As you have noted and alluded earlier, they removed the physical prudence, whether deliberate or inadvertently. These parameters will be used. We'll use the 2015-2016 Kenya Integrated Budget and Household Statistics, or KIHBS, and the 2019 population census. That was a huge concern because the population that was used earlier on was the population of 2009. And in that case, Mr. Speaker, just to give a simple analogy, it's like when you are the current member of parliament and when you are referred to, they refer to the previous or the former member of parliament. So we have insisted that the figures that should be used should be the current figures. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, the committee made the following observations. 1, the Senate took too long to consider the recommendation of the Commission on the revenue allocation on the third basis for the revenue allocation among county governments. Indeed, CRA, as I had said earlier, CRA submitted the recommendation for consideration on 30th April 2019. 2, the issue of the quantum figure estimated at 370 billion shillings does not have the force of law. The National Assembly will be guided by the available resources, national interest, and other factors when deciding on the vertical sharing of the revenue between the two levels of government. It is the business of this House to have that vertical division of revenue or of resources.
I add the member 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
2 minutes.
So the third one, as I also conclude, in calculating the indexes attached to the parameters, there is need to use the current data as provided by the KIHBS 2015, 2016, and the 2019 population census, and any other data that is provided by the national government authorities. And 4, the parameters are not exhaustive, as they do not include services such as water, fishing, and all that. Committee's recommendation. Having considered the above matter, the committee recommends to this House as follows: that the third basis for allocation of the national revenue among county governments be approved. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker, and I request the leader of Minority Party, CPA, Honorable John Buddy, to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Actually, Chair, I added you 2 minutes, but you didn't utilize it, so probably I will lump it and give it to the person seconding, because I think you had already prepared to conclude. So let's have the Honorable Minority Leader. I mean, now in this particular capacity, the Honorable Member for Suba South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in seconding this motion, I have the following comments to make. Number one, the mover of the motion has rightly pointed out that Article 217 of the Constitution requires the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to, every 5 years, determine or come up with a formula or a basis to determine the allocation of revenue among the 47 counties. Mr. Speaker, on 30th of April, but before I go to that, Article 216 requires that before the Senate considers the basis, there is need for CRA to propose to them or recommend to them the formula. That recommendation went to the Senate on 30th of April 2019. And Mr. Speaker, from that time to the time we started seeing the drama in the Senate, Mr. Speaker, the senators did deem it fit to deal with this formula, whereas they knew very well that the CARA of 2020-2021 would require this formula. And Mr. Speaker, I want to point out the following, that if you look at what the formula that the Senate has finally brought to this House, even after all these shenanigans we saw around, Mr. Speaker, they have basically uplifted what CRA had proposed with only one change and brought it to us. So you ask yourself, Mr. Speaker, contrary to what Kenyans believe out there, that Senate has brokered some kind of an agreement, a serious one, a major one. Mr. Speaker, I am going to shortly demonstrate that what the Senate did was just to uplift, to copy-paste the CRA formula and has brought it to us. And why do I say so? Mr. Speaker, there were 10 parameters from the CRA formula. There are 8 parameters from the final formula that has been introduced in this House. The first parameter was basic share of 20%. The way it was in the CRA formula is the way the Senate has brought it. The second one was the issue of health. 17% CRA, 17% Senate formula. Mr. Speaker, the next one was agriculture. 10% CRA, 10% Senate. The next one was urban. Mr. Speaker, it is 5% in CRA, 5% in the Senate formula. The next one was poverty index. 14% CRA, 14% Senate. Mr. Speaker, the other one was the land area. 8% Senate, CRA, 8% Senate. The next one is population, which CRA called other services, but was basically using population demographics. That again, Mr. Speaker, has been uplifted at 18% CRA, 18% Senate. So what has the Senate done? What they have done is to remove fiscal prudence at 2% and fiscal effort at 2%. That 4% they have added to the roads, which CRA had recommended at 4%, made it 8%, and they have passed the formula, brought it here. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing wrong with Senate agreeing entirely with the work of CRA. But why did they have to take all this time? And why did they have to subject Kenyans to this kind of frustration when the only thing they did on that formula is to remove the fiscal effort and fiscal prudence of 2%, 2% each, and added it to roads? Mr. Speaker, that could have been done in a record one day. Mr. Speaker, therefore we must tell the Senate they put Kenyans to panic for nothing and doing completely and absolutely zero work, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, so what is this formula? Mr. Speaker, what the Senate has done is to treat this formula in two stages. This formula is supposed to be applied in 5 financial years, 2020, 2021, all the way to 2024, 2025. What they have done in 2020, 2021, is to suspend the formula without saying we are suspending it. So what they have done is to bring the figures of the 2019, 2020, the 316, how it was divided. They have brought it to 2020, 2021, and they have called it allocation ratio. Then they have said for this year, the additional funds will be 0 times formula, meaning you are not adding anything, you are carrying forward the figures from 2019, 2020. The question I want to ask, why couldn't the senators do this in a record one day? Because that is very simple. You just agree, Homa Bay get what you got, Tana River get what you got, and that would have been very easy. The country would have moved on. The counties would be having money today. Mr. Speaker, to me, this is a clear demonstration of negligence of duty, incompetence. That is the word, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I know that these formulas, when you look at them, I'm sure there are people who, when they look at the order paper, they get scared. I just want to help this House just understand a little this formula, and then I'll sit down, because the mover had explained almost everything. My duty is just to fill in the gaps where I think maybe the mover has not touched. Mr. Speaker, CRA for the first time, and I must say that, did a commendable job. What we may disagree with the weighting, but CRA did a commendable job. What did CRA do? CRA went and unpackaged, broke down the functions. And this is what they did. For health, CRA decided to give health component 17% of the entire revenue. Now, how did they use, what are the statistics, or what is the formula to distribute the 17%? This is the formula. They looked at 3 parameters. Number 1, and that is what I thought the Senate would have engaged its mind to. And that is what I thought this House would have been given opportunity to interrogate. Because 1, the Senate, the CRA decided to use hostel visits for level 2 and 3 and allocated 60% of that health component, 60% of it is being allocated on the basis of visits to level 2 and level 3 hostels across the country. Second component is visits to level 4 and 5 at 20%. Then someone would argue, and if you look at that application of that formula, it would give more money to certain regions and leave others. Because when you look at Western Kenya region, people visit hostel more because of malaria, HIV, etc. You look at Central Province and Nairobi area, people visit hostel more because of what? The lifestyle diseases like cancer and diabetes. You go to Northeastern, people don't visit hostels, not because they don't want to visit hostels, but because either there are no hostels around, or even if they are there, they are very far. So then, what CRA did to cure this was to introduce a 3rd factor. That is facility gap. And that has been allocated 20%. What we should have been discussing as people's representatives is whether 20% is adequate to address the issues that we see in Mandera, Garissa, Isiolo, Marsabit, etc., even Narok. That is what the senators would be discussing, Not the issue of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Some people live where, some people are representing animals. That was not supposed to be the discussion. The discussion was supposed to be centered on these parameters. If you move to the next parameter, that is agriculture, which has been allocated 10%. Mr. Speaker, what was proposed is to use rural households. So you get a county, remove what is considered as urban centers in those counties, remove the population in those areas, remain with what is considered as rural population, take the total, sum all the other 47 counties, put the figure for that particular county, call it Narok, over the total, and apply the amount that has been allocated for agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the next question that we would be engaging, and that is why I'm very angry with the Senate, because they have not provided me an opportunity to ask whether fishing has been considered as agriculture in this formula. I have no opportunity to do that. I am now not able to represent my people of Super South effectively because there is limited time to look at the details of how they came up with the rural population. Mr. Speaker, that I find very unfair from the Senate. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of urbanization, which has been given 5%. Then again, you use the urban population, the opposite of now, the rural population. Mr. Speaker, on roads, what was it that was considered? I know many people are thinking that the formula used the road network. Far from it. If you use road network, Nakuru would take very high amounts out of that, because Nakuru happens to be the county in this country that has the longest road network. So what CRA considered, which we should have been discussing, is what they call road deficits. Anyone who lives more than 2 kilometers away from a motorable road was considered road deficit. And that percentage gave, that loan gave Mandera 1.3 billion and was giving Nairobi County 5 million. Mr. Speaker, these are the things that we should have been discussing, and this is what the Senate should have been discussing. And Mr. Speaker,
I have added the members a minute, so you shouldn't.
Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker,
I've added the member because
I'm almost.
All the members, just like the chair of the committee had brought it very well. He's also debunking these issues, so I think it is good so that the members can be up to speed. So at least 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm actually moving towards closure. So I've just finished the issue of the road network. And Mr. Speaker, I wanted also to talk about the land area. And Mr. Speaker, the land area, if you look at that formula, it says 8% for the land area, but capped at 7%. What does that mean? What that means is that a county like Marsabit, for example, I hope I'm accurate. If you take its percentage of land area of the country, can even be over 10%, over 20%. So what this formula is doing is to cap it at 7%, so that no county is allocated resources beyond 7% of the total for the country. I hope I'm making sense on that. So, Mr. Speaker, largely, I wanted to say that these are the things that we should have discussed. Poverty is very clear, very easy. You use the poverty indices of the 2015-2016 financial year. But, Mr. Speaker, something that I wanted to bring out very clearly. I have heard people mention and talk about, why didn't we retain the formula for 2019-2020? If you retain the same formula we used to divide the 316.5 billion last financial year and apply the recent statistics of population out of the population census of 2019, and you apply the statistics of 2015-2016 regarding poverty index and any other indices, you will have 12 counties losing revenue. And that is why I think on that score, I agree with the Senate that we should have done what exactly they have done, of agreeing to have allocation of the 316 as it were in the last financial year. Mr. Speaker, finally, because I know your 5 minutes, the one that you gave me graciously is coming to an end, let me just explain one aspect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Someone is distracting me. But, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to explain now what is the formula from 2021, 2022 to 2024, 2025. What the Senate has done, which is the only thing that I think they have done out of the CRA formula, is that they have decided that going forward, and if we allocate from 370 billion in the next financial year, then 50% of 316.5, which is 158 billion, will be allocated, will be treated as what we call allocation ratio. You use the formula of the last financial year. Then the rest, now you apply the current formula. And this is taking you back to where no county loses. But, Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that that is based on a promissory note. It is not based on figures that have been agreed on. The President has promised. I know there is also BBI, where we are thinking of at least 35%, so it may be actualized. But before it is actualized, you should not legislate something that is like a promissory note. That is the concern that the Budget and Appropriation Committee had, that we have not decided on division of revenue for 2021, 2022, yet you are already making a decision with that in mind. It's like the executive, and people have been complaining out there that Parliament is an appendage of executive. Now you are saying that since the executive has pronounced itself, it should be treated as given, that this Parliament will give 370. Far from it. Parliament can decide to do the opposite. And Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I second.
Very well. Then, honorable members, I will propose the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Article 217(1) and 4 of the Constitution on allocation of the Senate of the share of national revenue among counties, this House resolves, the House concurs with the Senate and approves the third basis for annual allocation of the share of the national revenue to the county level of government for the financial years 2020, 2021 to 2024, 2025, which shall consist of the allocation ratio and formula, where 1, allocation ratio is equal to the shareable revenue allocated to the counties in the financial year 2019-2020, and 2, formula equal to population index and urban as in the order paper okay, where parameter and indicators of expenditure need is as in the order paper, is scheduled in the order paper, and further resolves that the third basis for allocation among counties and the share of national revenue that is annually allocated to the county level of government for the financial years 2020, 2021 to 2024, 2025 shall be applied as follows. A, equitable share for 2020-2021 will be the county allocation equaling allocation ratio plus 0 formula. And B, equitable share for 2021-2022 to 2024-2025 financial years of Kenya shillings 370 billion and above, county allocation equaling 0.5% allocation ratio plus equitable share of 0.5% allocation ratio as provided. Provided that for the duration of the operation of the third basis for allocating the revenue among counties, no county shall receive in any financial year an amount of shareable revenue that is less than the amount of shareable revenue received by the county in the financial year 2019-2020. Now we open debate, honorable members. Can we start with the leader of majority party? Yes, let's have the leader of majority party starting us off.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. And at the outset, I want to congratulate the Budgets and Appropriation Committee for a job well done. It's taken Senate close to 2 years. It only took them one weekend to bring this matter to this House and to resolve it. They've explained everything, so I really want to just cover a few things. And all this comes from Article 216, basically that mandates the Commission of Revenue Allocation to make recommendations to the Senate. And there was a reason why it was decided that there should be an independent commission that looks at all the issues and guides Senate. Because for us who went through this constitution-making process, it was assumed that revenue allocation in the past used to be politically motivated. And only regions that supported the powers that be would then get monies. So the CRA was a creation of the mistrust that the populace had on their government to allocate money. That was obviously before the Jubilee administration came into power, but that's a story for another day. But the long and short of it is that CRA scientifically went around and came up with a basis. And that basis, which CPA Buddy has explained in detail and I don't want to get into, basically took into cognizance that funds are sent to the counties for two main purposes. To provide services that are scheduled in the devolved function, the 14 devolved functions that were sent to the counties to provide funding for delivery of those services. That is the recurrent expenditure. And also to develop the counties. So there's two components in terms of the formula. The recurrent, which is expected to take no more than 70%, and development, which is supposed to take 30%. And in actually working out what will be the provisions, which parameters will contribute to the 70%, which parameters will contribute to the 30%, they were actually divided into, all those parameters that we talked about were divided into those. So that for recurrent expenditure, the health, the agriculture, other services, the urban households, and the basic share, that amount was assumed that if you add all those parameters, they add up to 70%. So whatever money is sent, based on those parameters, you'll be able to provide for health, you'll be able to provide for agriculture, you'll be able to provide for all the other services, all the 12 devolved services, and also cater for the urban households based on how many people you have within the urban sector, within your urban centers, plus, because to take care of issues of urban poverty, plus the basic share of everyone getting the same. In terms of development, then what CRA did is say development is based on the amount of land you're developing. So land parameter goes under development. You're developing because of poverty, to remove poverty. So you have land, you have poverty, and you have the road network. Because the road networks is what interconnects people and helps the delivery of their services. And then they added two, that for development, as part of Now, Senate, in their wisdom, decided
at the Moi Barracks in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. My name is Edward Kabasa. I'm a momentous occasion in the Kenya Defense Forces. After 8 months, a number of young Kenyan men and women finally graduating. President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be leading this particular historic exercise. It happens, and today is that day. A lot has been going on behind the scenes, and one of the notable things is that for the first time, the recruits are having the masks on, and safe social distancing has also been observed.
Basi mkuu wa gwaride hii hivi sasa anakuja kumwomba kwa heshima Mheshimiwa Rais wetu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Amiri Jeshi Mkuu aweze kuikagua gwaride hii. Asanteni, kwa heshima tunaweza kuketi tafadhali. Mkuu wa jukwaa, gwaride ya jukwaa, Senior Sergeant Coleman. Waelekezi, Senior Sergeant Kiprotich na Senior Sergeant Ngetich. Anasindikizwa hivi sasa na mkuu wa majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya, Jenerali Robert Kibochi, na mkuu wa chuo hiki, Brigedia Maroa Gati. Basi mkuu wa gwaride ameshaweza kuomba ruhusa ya kuweza kuendelea na gwaride baada tu ama punde tu Mheshimiwa Rais atakapochukua nafasi yake kwenye jukwaa maalum. Mheshimiwa Rais, burudani fupi ya muziki wa kuabudiwa Luya Midley. kesho hivi sasa ili kuwa tayari kupita mbele ya jukwaa la rais katika mwendo wa kinyonga na hatimaye mwendo wa kasi. Mheshimiwa Rais, mkuu wa gwaride hii ni Luteni Kanali G.A. Kinanga, A Company ikiongozwa na Captain Iyano. B Company, jeshi letu la wanahewa, naongozwa na Captain AP Ngurasia. Parade RSM, Warrant Officer 1 Samuel Kaniki. C Company, jeshi letu la wanamaji naongozwa na Captain RS Lusasi. Mheshimiwa Rais, D Company, jeshi letu la nchi kavu, wakiongozwa na Luteni SK Mulindi. hatimaye Mheshimiwa Rais, hii company jeshi letu la nchi kavu ikiongozwa na Captain JK Bet mwisho ni Parade Adjutant Captain PM Ngatia. ukinyooshwa tena baada ya kutembea, ili kuwa tayari hivi sasa kujongea mbele hatua 14 kwa ajili ya kipindi kitakachofuata. Wakati wake tena parade RSM. Kwa heshima sote tusimame tafadhali kwa review order na wimbo wa taifa. Naomba tubaki tukiwa tumesimama hivyo kwa kipindi cha kula kiapo kitakachoongozwa na Major Imam Bashiri Mtondo, Major Father David Chebi na Major Reverend Charles Okapesi.
Kiapo cha utii. Mimi sasa naapa mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu na mtiifu kwa Rais, Amiri Jeshi Mkuu na Jamhuri ya Kenya na Katiba ya Kenya. Nitamtumikia Rais kwa uaminifu kama askari wa majeshi yote ya Kenya. Nitatii sheria zote na amri zote na masharti na maelezo na mashauri yote ya Jamhuri ya Kenya. Nitafanya kazi zote za askari wa majeshi yote ya Jamhuri ya Kenya kulingana na sheria, bila uoga, upendeleo, shauku ama chuki. Mungu unisaidie.
Asanteni, kwa heshima tunaweza kuketi tafadhali. Mheshimiwa Rais hivi sasa kitafuata kipindi cha kuweza kuwazawidi au kuwatuza wale waliofanya bora zaidi wakati wa mafunzo yao, kipindi kitakachoongozwa na mkuu wa chuo hiki Brigedia Maroa Gati akisaidiana na Captain Hilda Amwai na Warrant Officer 1 Ngugi.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Chief of Defense Forces, Governors Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo Marakwet counties, Vice Chief of Defense Forces, Chief Administrative Secretary for Defense, Principal Secretary of Defense, Service Commanders, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the recruits on parade today have completed their basic military training for 8 months in this institution. The training they underwent was to transform them from civilians to military soldiers. During the rigorous training, they were tested, evaluated, and assessed in various military disciplines in groups and individuals. The ones before you are those who excelled. Your Excellency, may I humbly request you to present awards to them, Your Excellency.
Winners of awards: the Best Division All Round, Chui Division, commanded by Major S.M. Maina. The best company all round, E Company, commanded by Captain P.M. Ngatia. The best platoon all round, number 10 platoon, commanded by number 71834, Sergeant Georgina Wakesho. The best section all round, number 1 section, number 37 platoon, commanded by number 109785, Corporal Nixon Boyo. The best recruit all round, number 157704, recruit Gabriel Kipanga, Kenya Army. The second best recruit all round, number 155997, recruit Lawrence Mutua, Kenya Army. The best female recruit all round, number 137371, recruit Miriam Cherono, Kenya Navy. The best recruit in combat marksmanship, number 156156, recruit Brian Jeru, Kenya Army.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Chief of Defense Forces, Governors of Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo-Marakwet counties, Vice Chief of Defense Forces, Chief Administrative Secretary for Defense, Principal Secretary for Defense, Service Commanders, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, on behalf of the entire Recruit Training School community, allow me to welcome you to Recruit Training School and also to thank you for finding time from your busy schedule to be with us today. Your Excellency, on parade before you are new soldiers who have just taken their oath of allegiance. They will from here join various services of the Kenya Defense Forces, where they will assume their respective duties to defend the nation. May I now kindly request you to address the new soldiers and give them your wise counsel, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. The graduates, the leadership of the Kenya Defense Forces, Governor Uasin Gishu, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure today to preside over this passing out celebrations for graduates of the Kenya Defence Forces. This ceremony marks the successful completion of a demanding and important initial training of the recruits who are today formed up in front of us. I want to extend my congratulations to you, the graduates, and indeed register my appreciation to all the trainers who have coached you, mentored you, and instructed you in the face of this COVID-19 pandemic. To all of you, congratulations for a job very well done. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know what damage coronavirus disease has done to us and indeed to the world. And this pandemic has compelled institutions the world over to change their traditions and ways of doing things by adopting a new normal. So I'm therefore delighted to learn that this institution has observed a total lockdown since the first case was reported in the country. And as a result, you have managed to avoid contracting this disease despite the large number of recruits and trainers involved. This is a clear evidence that we can contain and eliminate the spread of the virus, and which underscores that discipline is fundamental in all spheres of life. So therefore, to you, Brigadier, congratulations to you, your officers, your men, and indeed to all the graduates. Pongezi. You graduating today, this is just the beginning. From here, you will join various services, formations, and units of the Kenya Defence Forces to begin your career. And ahead of you are years of service to this great nation. I am confident that you will discharge your duties with fidelity and the known KDF precision, style, aptitude, and selflessness. And wherever your trials lead you, the link between you will never be broken. To all parents and guardians and family members watching this ceremony from your homes, we appreciate the sacrifice that you have made by giving your sons and daughters to serve their motherland. Indeed, today, I note with appreciation that several female recruits have completed the course with their male counterparts, and this is yet another manifestation of my administration's commitment to ensure equal opportunities to all, and indeed to empower our women folk. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important for these young women working alongside men to find meaning and purpose in their work. When these young men and women joined the Kenya Defence Forces from all parts of this great nation, they became one cohesive family. And together, your mission is clear: to protect our country's sovereignty and territorial integrity, defend our people, and undertake any other tasks assigned to you from time to time. We are charging you with the duty of protecting this nation from assailants and intruders, And it is important for you to appreciate that we still need to invest more effort to downgrade and degrade the Al-Shabaab terrorists so as to not only safeguard our sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also help stabilize the entire Eastern African region. The training you have undergone is to empower you with the skills necessary to solve this problem. You are in the service of justice, and you are the agents and protectors of this nation. This is your ultimate contribution to the people of Kenya, who by accepting to pay tax have sacrificed to ensure you successfully discharge your duties, and I urge you to apply yourselves in the most patriotic and professional manner at all times. Graduates, ladies and gentlemen, part of my solemn duty as your Commander-in-Chief is the protection of Kenyans, their property, and the preservation of our sovereignty and territorial integrity. And it is for this reason that I laud the efforts of the Kenya Defense Forces in the fight against terrorism, as well as that of all other security agents. Our engagement in various initiatives like AMISOM, aimed at defeating terrorism, have yielded significant successes. My direct instruction to you all, therefore, is to embrace impartiality over prejudice, restore goodness and humanity, as well as let us together build this nation. You have voluntarily joined this honorable profession, and for that reason, I am confident that you will discharge your duty as is expected of you. Graduates, the dynamic security environment you will be operating in demands that you continue to sharpen your skills. Moreover, you will need to enhance your knowledge on national, regional, and international security threats. This way, you will have a much better understanding of how to operate within and without our territorial boundaries. Let me at this point note with appreciation the role that the Kenya Defense Forces has also played and continues to play in regional security stabilization, specifically, as I stated earlier, in the war against terror. While we have made good progress, it is important to note that we still have security challenges that require our attention, and I do believe that you are the right people for that job. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation takes pride in the high standard that has been the hallmark of our defense forces. Our military personnel continue to play a major role in international assignments, such as the United Nations Peace Support Operations, including the African Union and IGAD missions in various parts of the world. The continuous participation of our military in these missions reflects the confidence of the international community through the United Nations and the Security Council in particular has in our nation's defense forces. This indeed is true testimony of the high standards of our military training as well as your professionalism. As Commander-in-Chief of the Security Forces, I am proud of the high standards of the parade you recruits have displayed here today. And I, however, once again urge each and every one of you to emulate your superiors and to continue to strive to acquire further knowledge and skills so that you can effectively meet the challenges that lie ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I would like to register my appreciation and indeed the appreciation of the people of Kenya of the fact that the Kenya Defense Forces has continued to be a symbol of our nationhood. Its organization and the symbolic relationship between its members, drawn from different communities in Kenya, living and working together as one team, is indeed inspiring and it demonstrates that we are indeed one people and one nation. We also recognize the contribution that our defense forces continue to make to our country as a whole, especially in utilizing your skills and assets to spearhead selected strategic development projects. The rehabilitation works, for example, on the Nairobi-Nanyuki meter gauge railway, the work done by Navy engineers in rehabilitating the Kisumu Port, and the ongoing Nakuru-Kisumu line, the work that is ongoing there, are a few of such projects that the Defense Forces has executed with excellence, and for this reason, we are indeed proud of your contribution to the realization of the Vision 2030 journey. I urge all Kenyans today, and indeed all government agencies, to emulate this commitment of excellence from our Kenya Defense Forces. Further, I wish to commend all the Kenya Defense Forces for their professional conduct during operations and support to civil authority. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, in the defense of our motherland and fulfilling our international obligations to pursue peace and security, it is important to note that we have lost some of our gallant soldiers. These losses are not in vain. Their sacrifices for freedom and our motherland strengthens our resolve, and to that end, I would like to ask you all to be upstanding for 1 minute of silence in remembrance of all those gallant officers and servicemen and women. Thank you. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate what I said to the graduates as new recruits to the service and as young makers of this country. Our success on national development goals that we have set for ourselves as a people depends on you, our young people. However, you must be purpose-driven. If you become a community of solution givers and problem solvers, success will inevitably follow you. This is how our international development goals, as well as our national development goals, will be realized. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, with these remarks, let me once again take this opportunity to wish each and every one of these new soldiers success in their future careers. I thank you. God bless you all. God protect you as you go about your service. And indeed, may God continue blessing this great nation of Kenya. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Kwa heshima sote tusimame tafadhali kwa kipindi cha heko kwa rais.
His Excellency the President. Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip,
Mkuu wa gwaride hivi sasa anajongea kupata kuweza kuomba idhini ya kuondoa gwaride hii ya askari ama wanajeshi wapya uwanjani. Asanteni kwa heshima za kuketi tafadhali. Wakiwa wananyooshwa tena hivi sasa, parade RSM wakiwa tayari katika vikundi vidogo vidogo kuweza kuondoka uwanjani. Basi ulivyosikia ni to your duties by the left quick march, ya kwamba hawa hivi sasa wameshakuwa wanajeshi wetu rasmi katika majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya, wanapoondoka kuweza kwenda kujiunga na vikosi mbalimbali vya majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Ni mengi walioweza kuyapitia walipokuwa katika mafunzo yao, ikiwa ni pamoja na mazoezi makali ya kijeshi kuanzia asubuhi na mapema, kutembea kilomita nyingi tu wakiwa wamebeba zana zao na mizigo mizito ya kijeshi, kupita katika milima na mabonde, kwenye changarawe na mawe, maeneo yaliyo na miba, kupita katikati ya wanyama wakali. Lakini Mwenyezi Mungu amewalinda hadi siku ya leo. Wanajeshi wetu hawa wapya wanafuzu rasmi kwa wanajeshi wetu wa majeshi yote ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Kiendelea kushukuru pia na kuwapongeza wote waliohusika katika kuwapa mafunzo makali ya kijeshi, wakiongozwa na mkuu wa chuo hiki Brigedia Marua Gati, naibu wake Kanali Mesha Kikishoyan, wakuu wa divisheni Simba, Chui na Nyati, na hali kadhalika afisa wote wakuu katika makao makuu ya chuo hiki cha kurutu wa majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Tunaendelea kuwatakia kila la kheri wanapoenda kujiunga na vikosi mbalimbali vya majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya, jeshi la nchi kavu, jeshi la wanahewa na jeshi la wanamaji. Tunashukuru madaktari wa chuo hiki wakiongozwa na Kanali Daktari Edalia, madaktari wote kwa ujumla ambao walihakikisha kwamba afya za wanajeshi hao wapya zimekuwa za kufana kabisa. Washukuru pia viongozi wetu wa kiroho ambao kila kuchao wamekuwa wakiwapa mawaidha ya kiroho maimam, reverend na hali kadhalika mafadha. Na kuwashukuru wote waliohusika katika maslahi yao, kuhakikisha wanapata mavazi, vyakula na hali kadhalika silaha zao zote, mazana kwa ujumla wanazohitaji wakati wa mafunzo yao. Washukuru pia wazee ama wote wanaohusika na nidhamu katika majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Defense Forces Sergeant Major Warrant Officer 1 Elijah Koranga, Kenya Army Sergeant Major Warrant Officer 1 Hamoud Said Abdallah OGW, Kenya Air Force Sergeant Major Warrant Officer 1 Dennis Talengo Namunyu OGW, hali kadhalika Kenya Navy Sergeant Major Warrant Officer 1 Omar Saidi Bwana, RCM wa chuo hiki Warrant Officer 1 Kariuki, na wote kwa ujumla ambao wamekuwa wakiwapa mawaidha wanajeshi wetu hawa wapya. Tunazidi kuendelea kuwapongeza kwa kuweza kukamilisha mafunzo yao katika chuo hiki, kupita kwenye matope, wakati wa mvua, wakati wa jua kali, kwenye vumbi kali, na kuweza kufuzu siku ya leo rasmi kuwa mwanajeshi ama wanajeshi wa majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Kuwashukuru na kuwapongeza pia wakufunzi wa chuo hiki kila kuchao kuhakikisha kwamba wanajeshi hao wapya wameweza kupata mafunzo yanayostahili mwanajeshi wa kisasa. tunaendelea kuwatakia kila la kheri popote pale wanajeshi wetu hawa wapya watakapo kuwepo Mungu apate kuweza kuwa pamoja nao katika shughuli zao zote na kupata kuendelea kulinda taifa letu. Kama vile ulivyoweza kusikia, imekuwa ni safari ndefu tangu walipojiunga na chuo hiki hadi siku ya leo. Mwenyezi Mungu amewajalia kuweza kufuzu salama. Siku ya leo imekuwa ni siku ya historia katika maisha yao, kwani hivi sasa maisha yao yameshabadilika tangu kuweza kuwa raia na hatimaye hivi sasa kuweza kuwa wanajeshi katika majeshi yetu ya ulinzi ya Kenya. bendi zetu za majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Rais, wakiondoka pia nao uwanjani. Chini yake Luteni Kanali Martin Makadia na Mboka, Senior Drum Major akiwa ni Warrant Officer 1 Lucas Okoth. Nichukue nafasi hii kupata kuwafahamisha order of march. Kwanza kwa scout, pili ceremonial vehicle ikiwa imebeba service commanders, tatu msafara wa rais ukiongozwa na pikipiki zetu ama pikipiki za rais, tano presidential security, sita cabinet secretary of defense, saba.
You have been watching the pass-out parade of the Kenya Defence Forces from the Recruits Training College and the barracks in Eldoret. This training has been conducted over the last 8 months, and the young Kenyan men and women in uniform will be joining their colleagues in protecting the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in leading this exercise, has implored on the Kenya Defence Forces to remain steadfast in protecting Kenyan territories, both from domestic and foreign insurgency. The training of the Kenya Defence Forces is anchored upon 5 pillars, among them good citizenship, good soldiering, professionalism, traditional and cultural values, as well as resettlement. This live broadcast has been brought to you by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in conjunction with the Kenya Defence Forces. My name is Edward Kabasa. Live from Eldoret, I hand you back to the broadcasting house for normal programming.
Senior Sergeant Saina, Sergeant Juma, Sergeant Kwaich, Corporal Kiprop, kwa kuhakikisha kwamba mitambo yetu imekuwa sawa kabisa. Nilivyosema, kwanza kabisa scout, gari la pili likiwa ni service commanders wakiwa katika Land Rover lililo wazi, alafu tatu msafara wa Mheshimiwa Rais ukiongozwa na pikipiki zetu the military police, alafu tano nyuma yao iwe
Excuse me, who is this trying to call me with his gadget? Please,